This House is in session. I wish to welcome back all members of this honorable chamber, and I trust that in this good year 2025, we will strive and endeavor to conduct the people's business with a degree of civility. That is all I will say at the commencement of this year 2025. A word to the wise continues to be enough. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, 17th December 2024 to be deferred. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be deferred.
That the aforementioned minutes be deferred. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby deferred.
Announcements by Your Honor the Speaker. Messages from Her Excellency the President. Petitions and papers.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I'm commanded to lay the loan contract number 5908 OCBA between the Government of Barbados and the Inter-American Development Bank, Barbados Climate Resilient South Coast Water Reclamation Project, December 12, 2024.
Government notices, private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees.
Honourable Member St. George North.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the report of the Joint Select Committee on the Social Sector and the Environment on the Health Services Amendment Bill 2024 and the proposed Health Services Regulations 2024.
First readings of bills.
Honourable Member St. Philip West.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the first reading of the Student Revolving Loan Fund Bill 2025.
Questions that the aforementioned bill be read a first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42 subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Government business, sir.
Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 11. In the name of the Honourable Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, to move the second reading of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill 2024.
Honourable Member St. Michael South.
It is my pleasure this morning, sir, to rise and to bring this bill before this honorable chamber. I want to begin, sir, by, of course, wishing a very happy and a prosperous new year to all of Barbados. I want to thank all the members of staff of the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs who would have done tremendous work over the course of the last year, which would have been reflected, sir, in a number of pieces of legislation and policy and administrative adjustments that we would have made, sir. I also feel specially moved, I hope it is proper to do so, to say it is great to see you, sir, resume your position in that chair, notwithstanding the excellent role played by the member for St. Thomas. It is really good to see you. I beg your special indulgence, sir, and permit me to welcome, with your permission, of course, the number of persons from the community of persons with disabilities in their individual capacity, as well as in the capacity of representatives of a number of organizations that support persons with disabilities. I do believe the number of persons that are here is testimony to the commitment and the relationship between the government and the community of persons with disabilities. So I commend their work. I commend their ethic, their attitude, sir, their support on this bill to all of Barbados. It has been my privilege to work with you all during the course of the last year or two to be able to bring us to a point where we now have the most transformative bill in the entire Caribbean region that looks forward, sir, and promotes the rights of persons with disabilities. I also want to thank my colleagues, sir, because I believe that if I were not even here, that any of the members on this side could get up and speak to these issues with a degree of familiarity, passion, and authenticity because of the conversations that we would have shared over the course of the last few years. Recognizing that as Barbados advances, it cannot be a case where some do well and others do not as well. As is the case on issues pertaining to disability, sir, I must offer a special amount of thanks to the Honourable Member for St. James North, who would have done tremendous work in helping prepare the policy and the report that his commission would have put out, and helping me personally to get the bill in a shape that we felt was fit for purpose, and his relationship as well with the community. There are few people, I believe, as genuine, as honest, and as decent as I think the member for St. James North is. And I commend him for his work, sir. I speak, sir, also recognizing that he has publicly said that he may no longer be in this place, and I would want, with your permission again, to say a very special thank you to him and to let him know he will be surely and sorely missed. I also want to thank, Mr. Speaker, the member for St. Thomas, who was Minister of People Empowerment before I had the opportunity to be the minister, and who would have started a lot of this work, sir. And during the course of my presentation, I hope to make it clear to Barbados that, first of all, we have a plan, and that we're executing that plan, and that we are deliberate in our efforts to be able to improve the lives of the most vulnerable, whether it be persons with disabilities, whether it be the elderly, children, persons, sir, who are not as socially and economically enfranchised as we would want them to be. On this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, we also must thank the Law Reform Commission for the work that they would have done in helping us to get to this place, sir. In the whole set of tools available to a government, I believe that this has been such an amazing addition to the artillery in terms of the production of legislation. And we would have worked very closely with the Law Reform Commission on this bill and on the bill for the elderly, and took consultations on the bill for children. And I want also to commend them for that work, sir, because we could not be here without them. And then lastly, but surely not least of all, I have to thank the Chief Parliamentary Counsel and her team. Sir, I cannot tell you the amount of times on short notice I was able to bounce ideas off of the CPC, to have her return my calls and my messages, sir. Driving work, sir, at a rate that some would find perhaps intolerable in February. We were driving it in January, early December, just before Christmas, just to be able to find ourselves in a position, sir, where we could produce something that the whole of Barbados could feel proud. I want to thank the CPC, I want to thank her team, I want to thank the AG, sir, because on a number of these bills that we would be producing, sir, there is no one ministry, that can do any of this work on its own. I really want to thank all of those who took a role in helping us to be able to do that, sir. If there's anyone else that I miss, of course, sir, I want to thank them too. Because I believe we got here through consultation, through relationships, sir, and by valuing our partners and our partnerships, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want today to share very briefly. I think that we have spoken on disabilities before. I believe that the public is well aware of the issues that we are dealing with. But I have today, sir, a desire to share with the country the vision for the social services sector. And I feel that I must do so, sir, within the context of this debate, because critical to the work that we are going to be doing in that reform of the social services sector is the work that we're doing for persons with disabilities, sir. As it is the work that we're doing for children, the amalgamation, and so on. And we would have brought a policy here, sir, I think I led it on Tuesday, the 29th of October. We brought a policy here, sir. That policy articulated a vision as to where we ought to be going. During the course of that discussion, sir, I made it clear that it was my intention to be able to lay the bill for persons with disabilities before the end of the calendar year, and we were able to do so. When we first began, sir, as a parliamentary team, we would go through our manifesto and say, promise made, promise kept. This was a promise made, sir, and a promise that was kept. And I want to begin, sir, to talk about the planning, because there are some people who would hear that the government is doing a policy and wonder, why is the government doing a policy? Why is it that the ministry worked on a policy for elderly, we're working on one for children? Why have a policy for disabilities, sir? But it is said that planning without action is a daydream. But action without planning is a nightmare, because you're here, there, and yonder. How do you gauge your impact? How do you gauge whether you are hitting your targets or not? How do you gauge whether you are making a meaningful change in the lives of the people that you have been asked, sir, to intervene in their lives, sir? So in a way, that policy gave us signposts. It gave us direction and allowed us, sir, to shed light on what I believe has been a very dark, long period for persons with disabilities in this country, sir. And I do not wish to have a political discussion on this matter, only because, sir, this matter has no bearing whatsoever on politics, except to say, sir, that those of us who occupy this place on both sides have made some efforts, sir, to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. It is interesting to note that it was the Labour Party that signed in 2007 the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and another government in 2013 ratified it. Such has been the approach taken on these social matters, sir, and I hope that long may it continue. But in this vein, sir, as it speaks to persons with disabilities, sir, I do not think that any of us should come to pat ourselves on the back or some idle boast, sir. The fact that we are laying legislation, and that in this legislation it commits several ministries to be able to do certain things, sir, to advance the lives of persons with disabilities, means that it should galvanize our resolve as a government to deliver each of us on behalf of the persons with disabilities. It means, in practical terms, that as we go through these estimates over the course of the next few weeks, that we include in our estimates the financial resources to be able to make real the promises that we are making, sir, in this legislation. It must galvanize our resolve to do better. That is the nature, sir, of the legislation that is before this House, sir. It is the nature of the way that we must approach this debate, sir, and implementation, evaluation, and monitoring must become the hallmark of the way we do business. We cannot say we're going to do these things, sir, and leave them to chance. I also, sir, introduced during the course of the last estimates the concept of inclusive prosperity. And I shared during the debate, sir, during the estimates debate and during my time in the well, that the idea of inclusive prosperity means that as a country prospers, that those who are benefiting from that prosperity, sir, must be everyone. And that there must be, at times, deliberate, practical policies that are constructed in a way that allows us to give some benefit to persons who traditionally haven't benefited from the prosperity of a country. Inclusive prosperity. And therefore, sir, when I think about the fact that the government has done very well in managing its economic affairs, sir, as a country, and that we consider that over the last few years, sir, when we look at the social policies coming from this government, because there is a tendency to believe, sir, that you cannot do well on the economic front, sir, and still be doing effective social policies. But I saw effective social policies, sir, in my ministry, coming from the Ministry of Youth, coming from the Ministry of Education, coming from the Ministry of Health, coming from the AG's office in relation to the work doing on crime prevention, and so on, sir. Coming from the Ministry of Labor. When I look, sir, at government's overall portfolio of performance, sir, I would argue that there has not been as much advance in the social policy arena as there has been, sir, in the last 6 years, sir, perhaps from any government. Sure. And the reason that people may not be able to see it, sir, because, you know, there was a time when there were things that had to be done that were very obvious in the social policy space. There were things that were very obvious. We were able to deliver on those things, sir. People were able to get uniforms. People were able to go to certain schools, and so on. But social policy and its requirements, to a certain extent, we've been able to manage some of those things. We must continue to do those things, but there are other things that we must also be able to do. And when I look at the work coming from this government, I am pleased, sir, with the social policy performance. But I also, sir, would wish to advise that we cannot, again, be idle in our boast. We cannot drop the ball. There is a view, sir, held in the literature on social development, sir, that you must be able to harmonize effectively your social programming and your economic policies, your economic growth. So that if you are able to do this, have a deliberate, pragmatic, practical, sir, from the outset, conversation around being able to have social development policies, sir, that benefit all who need to benefit the most. I would argue, sir, and in fact, sir, in the presence of the persons, sir, who represent the community of persons with disabilities, sir, some I would wish to call by name, but I know we're not allowed to do that because, sir, these are persons. These are people with lives, with wives, some with, serious relationships and regular lives. The fact that we refer to them as persons with disabilities is only for the purposes of being able to have a conversation. But these are people, regular people, sir, everyday people with everyday problems. Some, sir, have nothing to do with a disability. Just like many of us dealing with the children, trying to get to work. Those things in the cases where they have jobs, because it is still unfortunate, sir, that about 90% of the community is unemployed. And this is something that we would have to be able to address during the course of this conversation. But I would be sure that if I were to say here, sir, that we have to look at these things, the economic and social policies, because, it would be easy to come and say we need to put more money in welfare, to give the persons with disabilities more funds, and believe me, I think we ought to. That we need to revise the welfare rates and to be able to offer a higher level of support for persons with disabilities. I do not disagree at all. But I would be, sir, dishonest to myself and not reflecting the honesty, sir, that has been shared with me from the community when I say to you that most people want to work and they want to be part of the build-out of Barbados. So that, yes, we should be able to offer this social support, but that ideally, what we need to do is to be able to give jobs, to give work, and to allow people to survive in this country with dignity, because that is what they want, sir. And that is what this legislation seeks to do, sir. During my last presentation, sir, on the policy, I went through great lengths. And I don't intend to repeat it today, but I went through great lengths then to articulate the struggles of the community of persons with disabilities, sir. In fact, sir, I remember that on the morning or the night before, when I was speaking to a colleague, sir, who has a disability, my advice was to go and explain to the country what it is that we are dealing with. And so I came and I spent a significant amount of time going through the struggles, the day-to-day struggles of persons with disabilities. I do not intend to repeat it today necessarily, because the legislation, sir, rectifies and remedies, or seeks to, a number of these issues, sir. This bill is a common sense bill. This bill is a practical bill. It's an omnibus piece of legislation in the sense that it addresses a wide range of ministries, but this is a common sense bill. I feel, sir, that we're not in Parliament all nicely decked out in a suit. You and I, sir, and other people could be having this conversation at a table over something light. And having a serious conversation, sir, in a way that people in Barbados have conversations, sir. This bill does this, and this. This is what's happening now. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're seeking to address. I have a friend, sir, my personal assistant. She's always saying, tell me what you're dealing with, when she's talking to other people. This is what we're dealing with, sir. So, sir, this is what it is that we are dealing with, sir. It's a common sense bill. And it would be surprising to me if anyone were to oppose the content of this bill, sir. There are places, sir, where, after consultation, as you would see, where I felt that we could have gone further. There are places, after consultation, sir, where I felt we could probably have pulled back, sir. Some of that is here, and some got in, some got out. This bill is not Kurt Humphrey's, sir, permit me, this is not Kurt Humphrey's bill. This is a bill, sir, that after consultation for a significant period of time captures what we think, sir, is the mood of the country, the needs of the community, sir, and the will of a government that is committed to advancing the lives of persons with disabilities. Sir, a few years ago, when I was doing some community service, sir, I met a man. I might have told that story before. I would not tell the entire story, but I met a man who was a homeless man. And we were in the Queen's Park. This is long before politics. We were in Queen's Park. We used to sell shirts or distribute shirts for free for $1, sometimes $2, just small amounts of money. And people would come, sir, to Queen's Park, and they would purchase these shirts, these shoes, whatever it is that we were selling, sir. And one day I met a man, and this thing has stood with me for so long. I met a man, sir. He came to purchase. He said he wanted a shirt and a pair of shoes. And he did not have enough money for the shirt and the pair of shoes. I think we were selling $2 and $5. The numbers may be wrong, but $5 for the shoes and $2 for the shirt. And of course, when people didn't have enough money, as always, $3 for the shoes, $1 for the, you come all the way down. This man said to me, I do not have enough money, but I do not want you to give me a further discount. These things are already priced, sir, being sold for a price, sir, that is more than fair. Believe me what I say to you, sir. He then said he was going to leave and come back. And he left, sir. We were in Queen's Park. He left and he took the gate, sir, the one that took you to town. And he was gone for a while, and I almost forgot him. But he came back about 3. We would wrap up about 5 or so. He came back about 3 or 4 with a lot of change in his hand. He had enough money, sir, to purchase the shirt and the shoes. And he took off the shirt that he was wearing when he bought the shirt, and he put on the shirt that he bought. And he took off the shoes that he was wearing, and he threw them in the garbage, and he put on the shoes that he bought. And I said to him, because he had enough money in change, I said to him, well, sir, you can get anything else here that you want. You don't have to worry. We're closing down. I could give you another pair of shoes if you want. We have another pair that size. I could give you another shirt. He said to me, thank you very much, sir. But I do not want another pair of shoes, and I do not need another shirt. He said, I am a homeless man. And I do not have any place to put another pair of shoes, and I do not have any place to put another shirt. All I need is the shoes that I would have on my feet and the shirt that I have on my back, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to buy them. This man. I posted about it on social media a few years ago. If you don't believe me, it's there. And this man, sir, has taught me from time to time, sir, remember it, sir, because we hold a view, perhaps, that people want to be treated as less than other people because of the circumstances that they may find themselves in, sir. We owe a responsibility, a duty to persons in Barbados, sir, to give them the opportunity to work, to live, to have relationships like any other person, sir. Everybody. And I remember this man, sir, because it is easy for us to say, do this and give that, sir. I know people want to be treated with dignity, sir. In the Bible, sir, in the song made popular by Boney M, sir, by the rivers of Babylon, I think, you remember for St. Peter would tell me in the Psalm 137. They're asking, sir, and this song came to me, sir, for those of us who have struggled, sir, for people, sir, who understand slavery and other things. You move a people from one place and you plant them in another land that they don't know. You ask them to sing songs. Sing songs. We ask, sir, people who are impoverished and who are struggling, sir, to come out and to support certain things, but how can they? We ask young people, sir, and I remember, sir, because many of us in this room, sir, were somewhat activists when we were young. We ask young people, sir, to come out and to do things and to support this and support that. We recognize that they feel marginalized because they're not participating. But how can we ask them to be singing songs, sir? And this is nothing new, because I found a speech that I gave, sir, in 2007, sir, one that I gave, a paper that I wrote, sir, at the time when the Honourable Member for St. Michael Southeast and I and the Minister of Energy, we used to write for the newspaper back then, sir. I found this is now in the early 90s, 92. Articles that we were writing, sir. I remember the article written by the Honourable Member for St. Michael Southeast, the Deputy Prime Minister, the children that Santa forgot, sir. And that was about 1992. So this conversation is not a new one. But we ask people, sir, who feel disenfranchised and marginalized to come out and to support. So how do we ask the community of persons with disabilities to feel like Barbados belongs to them when for the most part they have not benefited neither from the promise of Barbados nor the performance that Barbados has shown over the last few years, sir? How can we ask them to be singing songs? And I know, sir, that during the course of the last few years, we have now taken on the responsibility for making sure that persons with disabilities feel as if Barbados belongs to them because Barbados belongs to them, sir. How can we ask people to sing songs in a land that does not feel like their land, in a strange land? And our job, sir, is to make sure that this land feels less strange for the poor, for the elderly now, for children, many of whom, sir, are neglected and abused, for young people, for all, sir, who are in a vulnerable state, sir. That is why we are here. That is why we are here, sir. And I do not often, sir, I try my best not to find myself embroiled in political conversations, sir, because people got to live whether this government is in power or whether another government is in power. People have to live. And that we have to be able to make promises and stand by our promises, sir, if those promises advance the lives of ordinary people, sir. But this is not work for the government alone. I don't want to give this impression that this government is able to do some miraculous thing and remedy everything. This is not work for the government alone. During the course of our consultations, we met with almost every possible group. We met with the unions, we met with the private sector, we met with the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners. I'll go through them a little bit later, but we had a number of meetings. And we understand, sir, that work, sir, has to be carried by them, too. Sir, I also know that the work has to be carried by the community of persons with disabilities. At the end of the day, sir, people have to be invested in their own development. And I want to commend the community of persons with disabilities, sir, because as I said last time, I have never seen a group so disenfranchised and yet so humble and so focused, sir, in being able to have their rights advanced in a way, sir, that is not offensive, sir. There are many times where the community has not agreed, we've disagreed, sir, but never disagreeable. And I recognize, sir, that in many of the institutions that are part of the community of persons with disabilities, sir, the concept of leadership, I've seen it so many times, being able to mobilize persons to be able to deal with their own challenges. We've seen it, adaptive leadership. And if I were still a student or still a lecturer, I would perhaps use the community of persons with disabilities and many of their organizations as a case study in what adaptive leadership should look like, sir. If I had the time, perhaps even now. Because to me, it is really about adaptive leadership. What is the core problem? And how are we able to address it in a way, sir, that keeps people mobilized and keeps people involved, sir? Because leadership is hard. And you know, sir, when you are trying to implement change, it is more likely that people will fall off. Many fall in the beginning. They like it, you know, it sounds good. But leadership is hard work. Many people fall off. I want to commend the community, sir. Because in my mind, sir, they have been the epitome of effective adaptive leadership in Barbados. But we must plan. We must plan, sir. And again, sir, the Bible tells us in Acts, sir, that boys, or men dream dreams, right? And boys have visions, or men dream dreams and boys have visions, yes, sir. And somewhere between now, I'm at the point where I'm somewhere between dreaming dreams and having visions. At this age now, I no longer am sure. But I do know, sir, that we have to be able to plan. And I do know, sir, that we have to be able to implement, sir. And I do know that at different stages of our lives, sir, we have different things to do. And at the end of the day, sir, that is what this government must be able to do. So let me share very briefly, sir, before I go into the legislation in detail, what is the vision for the social services sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, I had permit me to say, sir, I had a teacher at St. Michael's School. Mr. Blackman was his name. He was my physics teacher. And Mr. Blackman made it his personal mission to ensure that I learned Newton's laws of motion. I think I might have said that before I heard. He made it his personal mission. This is in fourth form. I was a science student, sir. I took math, physics, chemistry, and biology. I don't know why. But I took these things, but I know why, sir, because, permit me to say, Mr. Wendy Griffith Watson felt that I should do sciences, because if I had gone and done technical subjects, I probably would not have finished school, and that she felt I would be saved by going to a science class. I want to thank her, sir, up in heaven where she is, sir, because I know that she helped change my life, shape my life, and save my life. But Mr. Speaker, sir, my teacher, Mr. Blackman, sir, he made it his business to ensure that I learned these Newton's laws of motion, sir. And I am glad that he did, sir, because from time to time, I find a correlation between these laws of motion, sir, and the social science sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, Newton's first law of motion, sir, everybody and Mr. Speaker, sir, I know you know this, because I forgot, sir, that you taught. I think you taught physics, you taught math, and you taught all these things, sir. But everybody continues in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled by some external force to act otherwise. And what that essentially is saying is that if a body is stopped, or if a body is moving, if you want to get that body that is stopped to move, you have to apply a force. If it is moving and you want to stop it from moving, you have to apply a force. And the force, sir, well, we go on to Newton's second law, sir. The rate of change of momentum in that body is proportional to the applied force and takes place in the direction in which the force acts. So whatever it is that you're trying to move, sir, or change, you have to bring a force to it. And depending on the intensity of that force, it determines whether you can make change or not on this body. And then lastly, Newton says, Basically, as we know, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. When a force acts on a body, an equal and opposite force acts on some other body. But essentially, sir, what we're looking at, sir, is the same thing in the social space, in the lives of the community of persons with disabilities. If it is that we intend, sir, to be able to bring effective change, if it is that we are trying to improve the life, sir, we must bring a force. We must be that force. This legislation must be the force. The policy must be the force. The value system that we enforce in our children must be the force, sir. Where I differ on this is that I do not think it's only an external force, I think it's also an internal force. Because work must also come from the community. But an external force that compels people to act otherwise, sir. This legislation must compel the country to act otherwise. The public relations that we do must compel the country to act otherwise, sir. When we engage in conversations and we ask persons to share their stories as they have over the last few years, sir, and you hear these stories, horror stories, sir, coming from the community of persons with disabilities, we do not ask people to share these stories for style or for entertainment, but in the hope that having heard these stories, sir, it compels people to act otherwise, sir. We recognize, sir, in accordance with Newton's third law, sir, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. I believe, sir, that Barbadians, sir, employers should hire people with disabilities. But I know, sir, that the moment that we insist that you hire 5, it might mean now that 5 other persons, sir, who may not have a disability, even though they could accommodate 10, may not get the opportunity to be hired. I am well aware, sir. But I believe, sir, that this is the framework, the conceptual framework, sir, if you may, that would allow us to guide the ministry, sir. So what are we doing, sir? We would have brought this bill. We brought the bill, sir, now an act on child protection. The cabinet has already approved the drafting instructions for the elderly, sir. And hopefully before the end of March, we will be in a position to lay for the first time in this country legislation to empower and protect the rights of older persons in Barbados, sir. For the first time. We, sir, are working on the creation of an amalgamated entity that we now refer to as a social empowerment agency, and I will speak to that in a second, sir. But it allows us to deliver. And all this work happening at the same time, sir, because all these things are interrelated. All these things are interrelated, sir. And when we create that new social empowerment agency, it must have legislation that guides the various entities, sir, that is new and that is fit for purpose, sir. And I would explain, sir, the social empowerment agency when we bring that bill, sir, in much greater detail. But the reason, for those who are asking, that we have chosen social empowerment as opposed to family services, which is what we referred to it before. Family services is more procedural, more process. We want to offer family services. But social empowerment is aspirational. It is outcome-oriented, sir. And I believe that all of Barbados and all of our ministry's performance must be outcome-oriented, not necessarily procedural. So essentially, we have a vision, sir, that is outcome-oriented, that would advance the work of the lives of persons with disabilities, sir. So what is the current legislative framework? And I will go through this very quickly, sir, because, as I said, I don't think this needs to be, for me at least, the longest of presentations. But the current framework, sir, in Barbados, sir, that guides the lives of persons with disability, the National Assistance Act 1969, sir, the National Insurance and Social Security Act, Cap 47, the Health Services Act, the National Assistance Act of 1946, the Offences Act, sir, against the persons, and the Emergency Management Act. Those are primarily what we refer to, sir. And none of those bills, sir, none of those pieces of legislation are recent. Again, sir, I feel that a lot of the social services sector legislation is so old. It is so old. And the fact that we have been relying on a lot of it, sir, over the last few years, sir, while our organizations have changed. If you go and you look at the work that the NDU is doing today, it is not the National Disabilities Unit. It is not the same work that the National Disabilities Unit was doing when it was created. When you look at the work, for sure, of the National Assistance Board and what they do for older persons today, it is not the work that they were asked to do when that organization was created. And the same thing, sir, with children. And so we must modernize our legislation to have legislation that is fit for purpose. You know, I recall, sir, when I was debating children, I told the country that the legislation, in some cases, that guided our work with children was from 1904. 120 years, sir. Well, 121 now, sir. So that essentially what we had, sir, was a legislative framework and architecture, sir, that was not fit for purpose, sir. So we had set out in the policy, sir, and let me remind the country, sir, what the policy said. We set out in the policy what it is we want to address. We said, sir, there were issues of accessibility. Issues of accessibility, and I don't think I need to explain that. As pretty self-explanatory. People need to be able to access buildings, they need to be able to access transportation, and the wider physical infrastructure of the country. We spoke, sir, of an adequate standard of living and social protection. We determined that we needed to have awareness building as part of the work of the Social Empowerment Agency. We spoke also of education, training, and lifelong learning, sir, because education, sir, at the end of the day, for all of us, has been the reason that most of us have been able to stand here. That's the truth. Most of us, sir, born into regular circumstances in Barbados, sir, would not be in this place if it were not for education. And some of us, sir, had our education later, and some of us, sir, would have had the opportunity to train, whether it would be informal training, sir, and so on. Many of us, sir, because we were able to be given the chance at education, sir, and there's no justification on this God's beautiful green earth why persons with disabilities should not have the same opportunity, sir. And I know when the member for St. Philip West speaks, she will speak to the number of things under her leadership that the Ministry of Education is doing, as well as the member for St. James South. Mr. Speaker, sir, we spoke about health and rehabilitation. We spoke of legal recognition and access to justice, participation in society. Some of these things, sir, people might be listening and saying, well, you got to go in Parliament and say people should be allowed to participate in society. Well, if it weren't a problem, it wouldn't be here. If it weren't the case that persons weren't allowed to participate in society, sir, it wouldn't be here. And I said last time that the reason that people are not being able to participate in society is not any shortcoming on behalf of the people with disabilities, sir. It is the country. It is our infrastructure. It is our mindset, sir. And there are things in this bill, as I go through the bill, sir, that you will see, sir, that we meant to address some things, sir, that we brought in to this conversation, sir, because the country, in some ways, it has to change, sir. We also address protection of rights to life, regional and international cooperation. We know we need better statistics, sir. We know we need better statistics and data collection, sir, all over the government, particularly, sir, as it comes to persons with disabilities. And I am very thankful that since we announced the changes made by the Honourable Prime Minister, sir, and through the Minister in the Ministry of Finance, in relation to the extension of benefits to categories, sir, we saw a significant increase in the number of persons who came forward to be registered. And I recognize, sir, that the truth is many people probably felt, why should I come forward? Well, there's nothing in the deal for me. Why should I come forward? And now, sir, that we are making sure that we can make life better by knowing who you are. Sir, we are seeing an increase in the number of persons who are coming forward to be registered at the NDU, and certainly, sir, the number of persons who are coming forward to be registered at the NISSS, so that they could benefit, sir. And that has been a significant change, sir. It has made life a lot better, sir, for the number of persons in this country, sir. And I do believe, sir, that I believe any member for St. James North speaks, but the Prime Minister made it clear that what we attempted to do in the legislation that extended those categories, sir, to include cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, multiple sclerosis, and autism, what we meant to do, sir, was for any child who could not function, or any person who could not function beyond those categories, it was the intention of the government to offer resources to all of those categories, plus any other child or person who could not function, whose disability made it so that they would never be able to work and to earn and to function. And I do believe that we're going to be making an amendment at some point to allow us to implement what the Prime Minister meant when she said that we were going to expand for these categories, sir. so that there will be an even wider range of categories who can benefit from the funds, sir, that will be offered through the NIS, sir. And this, so beyond the legislation, we're putting our money literally where our mouth is, in the sense that we're making sure that people have the capacity, sir, to be able to get $1, sir. Those people who will never be able to function. I've said to the welfare department on more than one occasion, there's a process where after a few months, because of the computer system, and we're changing the system, where after a few months, people, and not most of my colleagues know it because they call me all the time, where after a few months, a person may fall off the system. And they fall off the system because there's supposed to be, after 6 months or so, a review. So it pops up to allow them to know that the person has to be reviewed. And in the case where the review is not done, sometimes accidentally people may drop off. We had to change the system. But that should never apply. That must not apply to persons who have disabilities, sir, that we know their circumstances are not going to change. We know this. And so in the new system that we're building out, sir, we're seeking to correct a lot of these deficiencies, sir, because it is unfair and unfortunate that we've lost, sir, a number of persons' capacity to be able to eat because of a computer system. Therefore, sir, we must correct the computer system. In cases where that has happened, we've made it very clear, just open up. Just go in and do the thing, no? If we were in the meeting, I'd say, just go and help the people in the man, sir. Because at the end of the day, sir, that is essentially what we were able to do, what we came to do, sir. And there are a number of challenges, sir. As I said before, I'm not going to go through them because we've gone through them. But essentially, sir, I believe my colleagues will go through again some of them because the country really needs to be reminded, but primarily in relation to discrimination and exploitation and the inability to earn and to live and to earn and to eat in this country, sir. Barbados, sir, like most other countries in CARICOM, has a percentage of persons with disabilities. Around the world, sir, I think it's about 15 to 20%. There's no reason to believe that Barbados has less than the 15 to 20% of persons with disabilities. I hope that we have more accurate information over the next few years as people come forward and register, sir, so that we have a better picture, sir, of who has a disability. And I also hope, sir, that when we do surveys or when the census is done, that people are honest about who's in the household. Is there someone with a disability in this household? Yes or no? Person probably will say no. Or if they say yes, what is the nature of the disability? Is it blindness? Is it the inability to hear? So that we have these statistics, sir. At the end of the day, sir, regrettably, notwithstanding all that I have said, the unemployment for persons with disabilities is ridiculously high. It is absurd, sir. And I know, and I remember, sir, the conversations that we have with the private sector, which I'll probably go into later, but I know, sir, that at the end of the day, sir, if you ask a man to come for a job, and you say to yourself, sir, because you're giving yourself now a little pass, you say to yourself, I will hire this person with a disability, I don't have a problem with him, but this person must have 10 CSCs, a degree with a distinction, and 2 masters. And as long as he has these things like anybody else, this person will get the job. When we know full well that the system as it's currently constructed is not likely, it has on occasion, but it is not likely to produce that. So we perpetuate a discrimination, sir. We believe that the country, sir, the employers must make a deliberate attempt to hire persons with disabilities. I also believe, sir, that through transportation, as we have started doing, education, as we've been doing, health, we have to be able to make sure that a person, sir, who has a disability is healthy enough to be in school. Because if you're missing school, you can't learn. And if it is that it is a problem related to health, and that has to be addressed, then we have to address the problem. We have to fix these problems at the core, sir. And when I go through the legislation, you will see, sir, that there are a number of things that we fix at the core, sir. We had about 75 meetings over the course of the policy and the legislation, about 75. This is perhaps the widest range of consultation on any bill in the history of Barbados. I mean, 75 meetings and a back and forth, changing bits and pieces, taking on some, leaving out some, sir, to bring us to a position where we are here. So I will not go through all the people I have listed here, but suffice it to say that they met, sir, with a number of people. The committee, sir, led by the Honourable Member for St. James North and his entire team, and again I want to thank the committee, and the two persons that we hired as disability advocates in the ministry, Ms. Janelle, permit me, sir, Senator Andwele is like, I keep calling it Andwele, Senator Andwele Boyce, and Ms. Janelle Oldo, sir, who we would have brought on to the ministry as disability advocates. No disrespect meant to the senator, sir, I just call him Andwele all the time. And again, sir, continuing the meeting, I've seen them, sir, on Morning Barbados, hearing them on the radio, seeing them in the newspaper, just trying to get the message out. So I want to commend these two young disability advocates for an outstanding job that they have done in the ministry on behalf of persons with disabilities, sir. I commend them to this parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to go through the legislation. And I will do this relatively quickly. I believe, sir, that we have established why the legislation is necessary. I believe, sir, that we've established a vision for the country and where we want the country to go and what inclusive prosperity must look like. This cannot be an elusive idea, a never-ending plan, sir. So in this bill, sir, we've set out, sir, a number of things that would allow us to rectify some of the things, sir, that you will hear during the course of this debate, Mr. Speaker, sir. At Clause 4 in the bill, sir, we outline our guiding principles. And for us, sir, it's important for us to be able to protect the rights of persons with disabilities, to empower persons with disabilities, to offer care and support, to promote the welfare, to have protection from abuse and neglect, sir, and compliance with the UN CRPD, which, as I said, we signed in 2007 and was ratified in 2013. In Clause 5, sir, the admin provisions relating to the Social Empowerment Agency are listed, sir. There are so many. And this is only in relation to persons with disabilities. But they will have a similar reality for children, a similar reality for the elderly. And their clauses, sir, they're points from A to R. Many functions listed for the Social Empowerment Agency, sir. Because we believe, sir, that the more specific we get in some cases, the better we are in terms of measuring, sir. What gets measured, they say, gets done. The legislation, sir, will be administered by the Social Empowerment Agency, and as I said, sir, the intention is to lay that bill before the end of the month in this parliament, sir, and debate it soon thereafter to put in place the Social Empowerment Agency, and this bill will come into proclamation at the time that we pass that legislation, sir, which will be very soon. It offers, this Social Empowerment Agency, sir, would allow us to provide adaptations where necessary and modifications where necessary, sir, to speak to a number of things, sir, motor vehicles, and a number of things, sir, in the day-to-day life of ordinary people, sir. The Social Empowerment Agency is also, as it is now currently constructed, to have offices all over Barbados. The point we made, sir, was that a person should, first of all, nobody should know what you're going to the agency for. If you leave to go to the National Disabilities Unit, people assume that you're going for something with disability. If you leave to go to the Child Care Board, people assume it's something to do with children and abuse and different things and so on. The NAB, no, the same thing. People just assume it's something. Nobody should know. When you walk into that agency, the agency should be offering such a wide range of services, nobody knows. So your confidentiality is protected from the start. That's the first thing. The other thing, sir, is that it is our intention that once you walk in, sir, you get a holistic and total service. So that you walk into the agency, sir, and you may be a person with a disability inquiring about something related to disabilities, or you may not be. But if you walk in, the officers in that agency are now charged to do a full investigation, to look at all of the various components in the family. Are there elderly people in the house? What is the state of the house? Are there children in the house? And so on. So that you offer a comprehensive, holistic intervention, sir. That is the intention behind the Social Empowerment Agency. At Clause 6, sir, we speak to complaints, sir, and the complaint mechanism. The agency, sir, is authorized to receive and investigate complaints, sir. related to the violations of this legislation, so that you now have an agency, sir, that is going to be looking out specifically on behalf of the interests of persons with disabilities, sir. And in the cases, sir, there may be some cases that we've established a tribunal where they have to go to the tribunal for further consultation, sir. Clause 7 allows the investigation by the department as well as by the tribunal. At Clause 10, sir, and I'm going through some of these, sir, because I believe it is important that people understand that this is not a this is not a piece of legislation. This is a serious bill, sir. At Clause 10, sir, it invites individuals with disabilities to register, sir, and I've already asked persons with disabilities to register, but it commands the organization. So, you know, every now and then you hear a new organization pop up for disabilities or for children or a community organization or whatever. But it's to protect people, sir. We ask you to register so that we can see your legitimacy. Clause 12, sir, gives a fine of $1,000 to a person who registers as a person with a disability, but is not a person with a disability, but is doing so with dishonest or perhaps nefarious intent. So once we know that you're faking moves, as they say, sir, there is a fine of $1,000. The Disabilities Rights Tribunal is established, sir, and discussed between clauses 13 to 20. It allows them, as I said, to deliberate, sir, on the complaints referred to by the Social Empowerment Agency. People have asked me if I call it C, SCA, or if I call it C, or if I call it SCA, whether it is an initialism or an acronym. So call it what you may, SEA or C. C of change, C of hope. At the end of the day, that is what we're doing on behalf of the most vulnerable, sir. The membership of the tribunal consists of a chairperson who must be an attorney at law, sir. A deputy chairperson with experience in social protection, thank you. One additional member who is either a person with a disability or a representative of an organization of persons with disabilities, sir. And it allows the tribunal to call meetings, summon people to those meetings, sir, to examine witnesses and so on. Because at the end of the day, sir, many persons with disabilities would tell you that they feel they are not seen and they feel that they are not heard. And, sir, we are seeking to be able to address those issues, sir. At clause 21 to 26, sir, we look at the rights of persons with disabilities. We go through the legislation, sir. We make provisions for the protection from victimization of persons with disabilities and provide for a penalty not exceeding $50,000. As is the case with most of the legislation by this government, sir, we have not sought to put jail terms onto some of these acts, sir, because we do not believe that we should put persons in jail for these things, but at the end of the day, the fines are substantial enough and the will of the government substantial enough to ensure that what we put here in the legislation is followed, sir. Clause 24 of the bill states that a person with disability shall not be subject to any form of discrimination, of exploitation, violence, neglect, or abuse in any form or fashion, sir. And at clause 25, sir, and it is in this bill, we recognize that a person with disabilities is entitled to exercise their sexual and reproductive rights. You would be surprised, sir, to hear the comments being leveled at persons with disabilities, as if they're not human, with the same physical needs as any other human being, sir. You know, sir, I probably wouldn't disrespect this chamber by saying some of the things that I have heard, but you know. Hey, someone has a child, what are you doing with a child? I mean, you're not, let's say that your disability, sir, is that perhaps you are blind, sir. What right you got with a boyfriend, or what right you got with a girlfriend, sir? People, sir, it is almost shameful. And again, sir, I have asked for our PR team internally to capture some of these stories. I recall, sir, when one of our disability advocates, Ms. Janelle Odo, was giving her representation and she told her story. A lawyer with a distinction. By every other measure of life, sir, nobody would discriminate against Janelle. But people want to know where you getting it, how you going to take care of this child, what are you doing with a child. all kind of things, so disrespectful. And it could only be of her inability to see. That's the only reason, sir. That's the kind of discrimination that we are seeking to be able to address in this bill. There's no other reason, no other conversation, no other possibility. That is it. Because we would look at Janelle, sir, and we would commend Janelle on how outstanding, what an outstanding individual she is, sir. But in a moment where you should be experiencing your greatest joy as a woman, being able to give birth to your child, sir, to have people in the room want to know what you're doing with a child. Those kind of things, sir, are wrong. They are wrong, they are wrong, they are wrong, Mr. Speaker, sir. And it is wrong whether the person is a lawyer or whether the person has zero qualifications. It's nobody's business, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, of course, sir, there's some people who, of course, we must protect from predators, which is a completely different matter, sir. There's some people we know that are taken advantage of, sir. That's a completely different matter, sir. But if you have the capacity to be able to make an informed choice, it is your choice, sir. We can't be inveigling ourselves in these affairs because we feel that there's a certain class of people created better than another class of people. And the truth is, you know, sir, it's not like any of us are permanently going to be able-bodied. Nobody knows. If I could just drop down here today, I had a friend who sat in a chair at a hotel and the chair collapsed and all of a sudden she now has a severe disability, sir. So we don't know. So even, sir, at the end of the day, sir, even because our lives could change in a moment, but it's not because of that, but even because it could, we should be able to do better than we are doing on behalf of persons with disabilities, sir. When we get to Part 5 of the bill, sir, we start to look at the various sectoral issues. So we look at education between clauses 27 to 34. During the course of our consultations with the community of persons with disabilities, night after night, I'm sure when the Honourable Chairman of that committee, the member for St. James North, speaks, he will speak to it, sir. Night after night, concern about education. People recalling stories of their now adult children. So again, sir, I don't want this to be no political thing, because this matter goes back for years. For years. People recalling stories of their now adult children and in fact, it is 100 times better in many cases. People recalling stories of just horrible experiences at school. Senator Boyce, when he gave his story, spoke about the teacher telling him he's got to bring his own desk. You got to bring your own desk, man. This desk don't suit you, bring your own desk. That's the reality, sir. In this Barbados, that people feel that they are allowed to be able to say these things, sir. And it is extra painful when persons who are placed in certain positions like teachers and doctors and nurses, counselors and social workers are the ones who are sometimes saying these things. But we go through, sir, in education, sir, we look at, Clause 30 looks at the integration into mainstream schools, sir, and I want to say that nothing here catches the ministers by surprise because, again, sir, we had conversations with the schools, with the minister in relation to the schools. And a lot of what you see here, sir, is already either being done or on the books to be done by the Ministry of Education. I'm sure the ministers in that ministry will speak to that, so I'm not going to go through all the clauses. But Clause 32 looks at accessibility to these assessment centers when people have exams and so on, sir. Sir, at clauses 35 to 46, we discuss employment. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, this conversation around employment is perhaps the one that took us the most time. I had a view early in the conversation, not shared by all, but shared by some. I had a view that this legislation should perhaps set quotas. In one of the early drafts, we had quotas. X amount of persons in your employ, you need to hire X amount of people with disabilities. There are other countries in the world that have set quotas. In fact, sir, we had a meeting with the Chinese ambassador as she was leaving, and she brought a representative, and again, the community of persons with disabilities came, and they told us that they have quotas, but the truth is that they never meet the quotas. There are other countries that have quotas. Quotas come with some inherent concerns and constraints. When I attended a lecture at the university, sir, I think it was hosted by the Council for the Disabled, I may be wrong, but there was a lady from Canada who was a specialist in that field, sir. She too was against quotas. My view, sir, having had the conversations again with the private sector, my view was that perhaps, okay, let's reflect on these quotas. And I'm telling you, sir, there are things in this bill that got in that I personally necessarily would not have in, and there are things that came out that I wanted in. But at first, I really wanted quotas because I feel, based on the evidence of what I've seen, that people perhaps would not hire unless they're forced to hire. But I also know now the danger, sir, of making legislation in relation to who heads organizations now. But I know the person who heads the organizations now, the private sector organizations, are very much inclined to help people with disabilities. I know that for a fact. I know, sir, that in our meetings, sir, their concern was that we have to be able to do certain things to put them in a position to hire. We have to have a list of the people with disabilities. We have to have a list of their competencies. We have to make sure that they have a greater level of education and so on and so forth. So we took it out. So the component on education, sir, does not have quotas, but we believe, sir, that we will have voluntary compliance based on relationship and based on conversation. But I am not opposed at all. When we review this bill in another 3 years, sir, to put in place the things that we have to put in place to be that force that compels people to act otherwise, as per Newton's first law. We, sir, have taken them out, sir, but we believe we can have voluntary compliance. We've seen enough of the private sector to know, sir, they've been attending meetings on the elderly, disabilities, and weighing in, having real conversations, feeling like a partnership. And in a way, too, I could admit, sir, it might be a little bit intrusive to say you have to hire when we haven't begun to have those conversations in terms of hiring and giving them the resources and the tools that they need, sir. Clause 36 makes provision for an employer to provide reasonable accommodation through making physical changes to the job site to facilitate the participation of persons with disabilities. So there are going to be some changes, sir. If you have to make changes to facilitate persons with disabilities, sir, the legislation says you have to do so. But of course, sir, there are also protections in place, sir, for employers. For example, at Clause 38, it looks at genuine occupational qualifications, and Clause 39, what they call, sir, unjustifiable hardship, to allow fairness to employers. So that if an employer, sir, says, I cannot do this, I would like to be able to do this, I cannot do this, then it allows for exemptions in those cases. Of course, you have to examine and make sure that they cannot do it. I must also say, sir, in many of these cases, many of the buildings that are occupied by a lot of our business class is not owned by the business class. A lot of these are tenants. So a lot of the requirements here are going to be for the owners of property in many cases to be able to rectify the buildings. So between the owner of the building and between the proprietor in some cases, we'll be having conversations. So as to ensure, because I also feel, sir, that everybody just can't get off. Because everybody's going to want to get off, you know. Everybody believes this is a great bill. Everybody believes we should do this. You know, they say everybody want to go to heaven, but ain't nobody want dead. Everybody want this, but nobody wants to put any skin in the game, Mr. Speaker, sir. So we have to ensure that we enforce this bill, sir. We have to ensure that we follow it closely, sir. Clause 42 states that every ministry will be required to employ persons, qualified persons with disabilities, sir. So the government is committing to hiring persons with disabilities. The Ministry of People Empowerment has already begun that process. We've hired, I think, about 7 persons in the last few years, and we will hire more. And we will hire more. What we've seen and what the Honourable Member for St. James North spoke of in this place on the last bill was that persons with disabilities often come to work and do better, stay at the desk, do their work, do the reports on time, show up on time, have a better work ethic in many cases than people who do not have a disability. So while you may not hire because you feel you're getting less in the deal, you should hire because you're getting more oftentimes than you bargained for. And I leave that with the private sector, sir, as I move on. But I'm telling you, I am prepared to come back. But I believe from what we've seen, the evidence of the conversations and the consultations, that I will not have to do so because I've seen on behalf of the private sector and interest in assisting in many ways persons with disabilities. We've seen them come forward, sir, to help the One Family program, to support other areas of persons with disabilities. We've seen them come forward to help welfare. We've seen them for many generations at Child Care Board, sir. In relation to health care, at Clause 47 to Clause 52, this stipulates that these institutions should offer healthcare services. Any institution that offers healthcare services to the public should also offer healthcare services in a way that fits persons with disabilities. You know, it is okay to say that you are a dentist. You're offering dental services. But nobody can get, the door is so narrow to your dental office that a person who is a wheelchair user cannot get into your dental office. So I would love to help you, sir, but my door too small. These things have to change, Mr. Speaker, sir. Or the person wants to use the bathroom in your medical practice, but the door too small, or that they don't have handrails, or that the person can't, if the person is deaf, the person cannot be otherwise communicated with, sir. These things have to change. The NDU, in conversations, I know the NDU is working on a project, sir, to have people on call, sir, so that they can help communicate in cases where it is difficult. And they need to do it with urgency, because these things are necessary, sir. On the government, sir, we have to do things to make it easier for people who are running businesses, sir. Because we want it to be a case where people want to do these things. We want people to want to live, people to want to help, sir. Clause 48, sir, states that the Ministry with responsibility for health will collaborate with the Social Empowerment Agency to ensure that the facilities are physically accessible and that all medical and paramedical personnel are adequately trained and equipped to give advice and medical care to persons with disabilities, sir. So that, you know, it is surprising when you hear stories. Some people don't want to touch a person with a disability, people who are supposed to be trained. Everything in here came from a practical real-life experience. I don't know if I could deal with that. My training, perhaps, has not allowed me to feel comfortable. Or my own biases do not make me feel comfortable engaging with this person, sir. I often wonder, you know, we did a game of sorts. They call it, it was kind of a game. They embarrassed me, but they asked me to wear a blindfold for a short space of time and walk around some desk. It's not even that simple. That's not easy. In fact, that is very, very hard, sir. That is very, very hard. And we put in place, sir, stumbling blocks at every point of the way, every point, to make life even harder for persons with disabilities, sir. I remember the experience because there's a certain helplessness almost and a hopelessness that I felt, to be honest, sir, at that moment in time, sir. But I also knew that in that room were people who had gone through that every day and people who had done so with grace, sir. I mean, most of us, if something goes wrong, we sharpen, we vex off, we ready to block, you know, we cruel. Most of us, many of us, I should say. But you watch what's happening in the community of persons with disabilities every day, a discrimination, every day, a barrier, and yet grace, and yet beauty, notwithstanding any of these things. I heard experiences going to the dentist and the cost of the dentist, and I didn't hear it with anger. I hear it with a degree of sadness, but consulting with the ministry with a degree of hope, hoping that these things could change, sir. And when we implement this legislation, it is my intention, sir, to have the adequate staff to be able to ensure that what we say we are going to do in this bill, we are able to do, sir. Clause 49 gives a duty of caregivers, sir. Healthcare providers and persons who are responsible for the care of a person with a disability shall ensure that the unique needs of a person with a disability are met, sir. At Clause 51, a key feature is that a person with a disability shall not be denied insurance solely on the basis of that disability. Now, we had many meetings with the insurance providers. And of course, sir, most of them would tell you that they do not offer such discrimination. And in fact, persons with disabilities can get all kinds of insurance without any problem. And they said so. The only problem was that they were saying so to a room full of persons with disabilities who were denied insurance on several occasions. Several occasions. People being denied insurance for things that have nothing to do whatsoever with their disability, but for them, no other justification is being offered. We had conversations with the insurance company. In fact, the honorable member for St. James North was particularly stinging in his rebuke, I recall, of the insurance companies during that meeting. And that at the end of the day, sir, look, this legislation is not meant to be no big stick punitive thing. But we know, we've heard enough, we've seen enough to know that unless we put in place these things, they are not going to change. And sir, we hope that some of the things that are in this bill, sir, we do not really have to take before the Social Empowerment Agency. We hope that we could have the necessary conversations. I understand insurance is about risk. You're managing risk and mitigating risk and making sure that, you don't insure a person that pushes up the premiums for everybody else. I understand all that, sir. But just show us. Of course, if the disability is the reason, then we expect it to be higher. But just show us and show them. Show them. Don't just say you can't get insurance. We're not insuring you. Show them. So we are putting in place, sir, policies, sir, to be able to address that, sir. At clause 53, we look at social protection. In social protection, sir, there are a number of things, sir, for us to be able to do. We want to provide assistive devices, sir. And this idea that assistive devices now are what they were 20 years ago, again, has to stop. It really has to stop. Because the world has changed, man. And we're still giving people the same thing and saying that we're doing well. We were in a meeting the other day, Mr. Speaker, sir. And there are no glasses. And I put in the estimates, and I hope that it passes through. I'm saying it here, so it might pass through on that basis. But there are people who have glasses, sir. People who are blind. They're glasses for the blind. You put on those glasses, and you can communicate. The glasses communicate for you. So it connects to your phone via Bluetooth or a speaker via Bluetooth. And I saw this thing work. The glasses would tell you you are in a room that is a brown room. There are 10 people in that room. The person at the head of the table is wearing a lovely blue and yellow coat and a white shirt. These glasses tell you what's going on in the room. If you go down the street, sir, and you're staring at KFC, the glass will tell you KFC is in front of you. Because technology has advanced to that stage. So why can't we do that? Why shouldn't our assistive devices be at the level where the developed country has their assistive devices? And to me, sir, that is the direction that we have to be able to go. I want to know that we have people who are doing the necessary research and looking at what is happening in the international space, and then using what are the best practices in the world to come back here and take Barbados forward, sir. As I said before, education is the key. If you have those glasses, you can imagine the glasses that can tell you what's on the board, sir. So I'm just saying there's a number of assistive devices, sir, that we have to be able to look at. And then we have to deliver faster for people. We have to deliver faster. I've had constituents, sir, who we started a ramp in 1 month, in 1 year, to have another year visit, same month in another year, and the ramp still didn't finish. It can't take 12 months to do a ramp. So we got to get better at delivering these services to people. It's all right for me to come and lay down a whole set of things that we're going to do. We have to be better at doing it, sir. And people have to feel a sense of pride in their work, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I mean it from both ends. We have to do better. We've got to make sure that the organizations have the finances to be able to do it too. Sir, at part 55, sir, clause 55, we look at national emergencies, sir. In relation to accommodation on premises, sir, we've already outlined some of those things, sir, but the minister with responsibility for housing in formulating and implementing housing programs shall collaborate with the Social Empowerment Agency, sir, to include provisions to address accessible, affordable, and safe accommodation for persons with disabilities. The minister responsible for housing has, to his credit, kept his word in relation to the promise that the government made to make sure that 10% of all housing goes to persons with disabilities. In all of the recent housing projects, sir, at least 10% of those houses have gone to persons with disabilities. A promise made and a promise kept by this government, sir. Furthermore, sir, the law requires that an owner, his agent, or any person authorized by him, when selling, leasing, or otherwise disposing of premises, shall not discriminate against a person with a disability on account of that disability. The reason that this is here is because it happens. A person may not want to sell his house to you because you have a disability. He may not want to lease it to you. He may not want to rent it to you, even though you can come and show that you could pay. And the vast majority of persons who are not paying rent in Barbados are not persons with disabilities. So the basis of the discrimination makes no sense at all in the first place, because many people who don't have disabilities, sir, are not paying their rent. Most poor people I know don't pay their rent. But some people who are not paying their rent, sir, don't have disabilities. So the basis of the discrimination, sir, makes no sense, sir. At clause 58, 1 and 2, it speaks to the alterations, sir, and that those alterations must be reasonable. Again, we've put in place protections as we did, sir, for the private sector and employment for persons who are owners of property. It must be reasonable. We can't expect people, sir, one person with a disability, and you have to install an elevator in a 3-story building or something. It must be reasonable. So the law provides for these accommodations, these changes to be reasonable, sir. In relation to transportation, clauses 62 to 66, sir, we make provisions for persons with disabilities to have the right to reasonable access to all indoor and outdoor places where services are being offered to the public, sir. And a person shall not be denied access, sir, on a vehicle, sir, on the basis of a disability, sir. Furthermore, sir, within 1 year of the commencement of this act, the ministry responsible for transport, works, and waters is duty-bound to review, update, and cause to be published building codes, guidelines for constructions in relation to the renovations of these buildings, sir. I'm sure they're going to do that in conjunction with us and the Ministry of Town and Country Planning, what that ministry is called. Ministry of Planning. Mr. Speaker, sir, the law gives 3 years after the coming into effect of this act to facilitate the recommendations in relation to buildings, sir, for persons with disabilities, sir. At clause 66, sir, the minister with responsibility for transportation shall ensure that as far as practicable, the provision of public passenger vehicles which are accessible to and usable by persons with accessible and usable to persons with disabilities, as far as practical. I know that we've been doing it with the buses that have been acquired. Those buses are disabled friendly. I know, sir, that I've seen with the ZR community, sir, a desire also. They've made it very clear that they wish to be able to have vehicles that move persons with disabilities. The National Disabilities Unit has acquired some additional vehicles, sir, to move persons with disabilities. As it stands, there are a number of persons with disabilities. A number of my colleagues come to me, sir, and they ask me for support to transport a person to the hospital or back, sir. And we do as far as we can, sir, but you must appreciate that the number of persons in relation to the number of vehicles may not permit us to be able to transport everybody every time. And that is why the National Transportation Service must be disabled friendly, sir. At clause 67, sir, we speak to the sports, culture, and recreation, and the minister, I'm sure, responsible for sports, the honourable member for St. John, will speak to more of those things, sir, so I will not go through them. And of course, sir, we speak to participation in public affairs. Ensuring that there's full participation in public affairs, ensuring that people can vote at the end of the day, sir, because that is a basic human right, sir. Barbadians fought very hard to be able to get that right, sir, and it should not be denied to persons with disabilities, sir. Clause 69(1) speaks specifically to participation in the political process, sir. In relation to communication, sir, between clauses 73 to 75, sir, we speak about national broadcast, being able to be shown in such a way as to allow persons with disabilities to be able to understand, especially programs of national significance, sir. So when we have these national programs, as we do now, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have in this honorable chamber, sir, permit me again, sir, certainly with your permission, sir, we have Ms. Bonnie Leons now and her team who are here interpreting for the deaf or the hard of hearing, sir. And what we're saying is that in any program of national significance, that there should be persons who are able to interpret, sir. And we're doing what we're saying we're going to do, sir. Sir, in relation to financial affairs clauses 76 to 82, sir, we're saying that credit unions and other institutions, cooperatives or lending institutions will be required, sir, to not unreasonably withhold credit or financial services. Again, sir, if you go through the bill and you see what we have put in the bill, it is a remedy to a real-life situation facing persons with disabilities, sir. So we know that in many cases, persons with disabilities feel very strongly and have evidence in many cases to show that they were denied access to credit. And nobody can say why, beyond the fact that they have a disability, why they're being denied access to credit, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we put it in here. Put it in here. And again, a lot of the things that we have in here, sir, I hope that we do not need to be able to enforce, sir, because the intention of the government is to have voluntary compliance. Sir, at clause 80, we establish a fund, and the fund has a management structure laid out for persons, you know, because we've seen a very generous local, regional, and international private sector, philanthropists, benefactors, different people who have resources. So we're going to create a fund, and if you want to donate to that fund, sir, that fund will be managed independent of the state, sir, and allows persons with disabilities to benefit. You want to go to training, and so on and so forth, sir. Access to justice, sir, was another big thing, sir. And we have said, sir, that persons with disabilities should have access to legal aid in this country, sir. This legislation makes it so, sir. And a person with disability, sir, who believes, sir, that his decision from the social empowerment agency or the tribunal and decides to take it to court, to the high court, sir, they can do so with the support of the state, sir. So the government now is saying, we will help you finance your case if you feel that you have been disadvantaged, sir. The bill allows for a number of things to protect and advance the rights of persons with disabilities, sir. And then lastly, sir, in relation to the bill, Clause 87 speaks to mandatory reporting for specific duty bearers, as we did for children, sir. So the legislation speaks to parents, medical practitioners, health practitioners, dental practitioners, school principals, teachers, and so on and so forth. It's a whole set of people, internet providers. Where you have access to information that says a person with a disability is being abused, you are duty-bound, as we have done with children, to report that abuse, sir. So that we, as the state, as a reasonable, rational, caring government, can then intervene, sir, and to make changes, sir. The fine for not complying is $10,000, sir. As I said under Clause 91, sir, we will proclaim this bill once we bring the Social Empowerment Agency bill, which I believe will be laid this month and hopefully debated soon after, sir, that would then enforce this bill, the bill as it speaks to the elderly, and the Child Protection Bill, Mr. Speaker, sir. Sir, there are a number of advantages for Barbados having this bill. I feel that I've gone through all those advantages, sir, and I do not wish to go through them a second time. But it is clear, Mr. Speaker, sir, that under the various clauses that we have established in this bill, that the rights of persons with disabilities are given primary concern. The capacity to be able to empower the community of persons with disabilities, too, sir, also given primary concern, sir. We acknowledge from the start the rights of persons with disabilities. I must tell you, sir, when I came in, there was a draft bill that was presented to me. I think it was done previously. And when I went through the bill, I said, this bill is not even beginning to be far-reaching enough. I think the Honourable, permit me to say, sir, the former Senator Carrie-Ann Eiffel, and now the President of the Council for the Disabled, has shared the bill with, the most Honourable, Carrie-Ann Eiffel, has shared the bill with me. I remember in our conversations, I felt like the bill wasn't far-reaching enough. And I believe that this bill that is before the House is a far-reaching bill, sir. It addresses most of the issues that were raised during the consultations that we had over the course of the last few years, Mr. Speaker, sir. It allows us, sir, to recognize the talent, the skills, the resources that is within the community. You know, a country as small as Barbados, struggling for people, denies itself a percentage of its own population on the basis of the fact that they think a person may have a disability and therefore has no other talents and skills is a nonsense. We need to tap into the resources that we know exist in the community of persons with disabilities. I was just having a conversation as I stood here, and I'm being told that my good friend now, sir, is into artificial intelligence and training in artificial intelligence. But why not, Mr. Speaker, sir? And I don't know anything about artificial intelligence, and I do hope that we will continue the conversation and that perhaps I could learn a thing or two. But why not, Mr. Speaker, sir? But there's a whole range of talent that has gone untapped, a whole range of resources that have gone untapped, sir. So this legislation is about doing the right thing and about doing that thing right. I believe, sir, that we have touched all of the major issues, sir, that currently trouble the community of persons with disabilities. I feel that this government has stood, sir, and I am merely here standing as Minister of People Empowerment, and I have said, sir, as I said at the beginning, I believe that almost any members on this side, and I mean it honestly, could easily stand and defend this bill, sir, because all of us have stood in this administration, sir, offering our hands as support to the community of persons with disabilities. And again, sir, I say that as a phrase, but these are people by name and nature that I now know, friends that I have made, sir. I can't call all the names, sir, so community of persons with disabilities, but these are people, friends. Many of them messaging me on social media on these matters and other matters. Some of us having the occasional drink. Regular people, regular folk doing regular things, sir. But the government has extended its hand, sir. The community, sir, have also extended their hands, sir. We believe we have a very strong partnership. Last Sunday, sir, Sunday gone, I was in St. Lucie. And at the end of the service, sir, near the end of the service, the priest asked for persons to come forward and be blessed, sir. It was in the honorable member. I was in the state of St. Lucie. You know, St. Lucie and St. Philip, St. Peter are republics unto themselves. But I, apparently, sir, St. Michael's South, not quite a republic, but you know, St. Lucie's a republic. But I was in St. Lucie, sir, and we went to the gathering church service. And it was a wonderful service, sir. And at the end of it, persons were asked to come forward, sir, and to be blessed. The priest asked me, sir, is there any particular thing you want me to pray for? My colleagues asked me what was the priest praying for me for so long. I said, well, you're doing a number of things. I just want to have a good year. Just want, you know what I mean? I just want these things to pass. I want to have a good year, sir. And unknown, without me giving him any extra information, I believe God himself must have intervened as the priest then went on to pray for the community of persons with disabilities, the elderly, and so on and so forth. And I never said exactly what I wanted, sir. I said to my friends, I grew up in the Anglican church. I was a server for many years. I spent several years in the Pentecostal church. In the Pentecostal church, sir, when people feel moved, when the Spirit hits them, they drop down. It never happened to me. I must tell you the truth. In fact, one day a man was pushing against me. I was very upset. It never happened to me. But on Sunday, I must tell you, when that priest was preaching, was praying for me, I felt like if everybody wasn't watching, they would have held on to the man, because I swear I was going to fall down. And my knees started to get weak, sir. I tell you the truth. As the priest prayed for all these various issues that we are now confronting as a nation, sir. So we left the church, sir, and I close with this, sir. As we left the church, sir, the last hymn that we sung was The Right Hand of God. And in the closing paragraph, it goes, sir, the right hand of God is planting in our land, planting seeds of freedom, hope, and love. In these Caribbean lands, let people all join hands and be one by the right hand of God, sir. With those few words, sir, I ask that this bill be read a second time.
Honourable Member for Christchurch South.
I'm obliged to you, Your Honor, and I think I've extended greetings for a healthy and happy New Year to all citizens of Barbados, here and abroad, but permit me to do it again. There has been a previous debate, as alluded to by the Honourable Member